Well, hello. So, a video from Skywatcher popped up in my YouTube suggested feed last night, and I have thoughts. My name is Becky. So, this, I guess, is kind of just my outlet to talk about this because there's a lot of UAP stuff happening. I'm super invested and I have thoughts, and I need somewhere to be able to share them thoughts. So, we are here. I want to talk about this Skywatcher video that they just released. It's about a half an hour long, and I think it was released, I want to say probably like yesterday afternoon. It is really interesting. I do want to say, even after watching this, I'm still not really sure about what they're doing. If you aren't familiar with like what Skywatcher is, so Skywatcher is the company that Jake Barber had mentioned in his interview with News Nation. My understanding from that interview was that it definitely had something to do with retrieval and finding evidence, that kind of thing, but I wasn't exactly sure. I was really kind of curious. I did find their website before, so I did find the website after the interview, which is just skywatcher.ai, and it's kind of weird because it's just what's your email and what can you provide is literally what it says. I was very confused, and I was kind of just like pondering like what can I provide. It's definitely pretty clear to me that they worked with News Nation, at least for the exclusivity. So I don't know if they gave News Nation the exclusive rights to this story and this interview. And basically with that, they were able to use the footage because they definitely use some of the News Nation exclusive footage. Like there's clips from the Garry Nolan interview, which I had just watched, which I have to double check to see when that came out, because I think, actually, I'm going to look at this right now. The News Nation, I literally just watched this today. So when did this full interview come out? 1 day ago. So they just released this full interview. That says to me, clearly they had all that footage. And not to mention the fact that basically everyone that was featured in the News Nation specials and the other interviews that they did in relation to this story, how conveniently they're all also in this Skywatcher video. Okay. So, I don't blame them. Like, I think it's smart. It's a good business decision. I mean, get as many eyeballs on you as you possibly can for the least amount of funds. How are they making money? Is the goal to make money, or is it to just prove that this is the case and then sell the other services? Like, that's kind of what I'm curious about. In this Skywatcher video, they did touch on more of the psionics, and they actually did feature a couple of guys that claimed, at the very least, to be psionic assets themselves. I think there's a lot of information in this, and I'm actually really curious to see what they come out with next. I'm trying to understand what's the call to action for. Why? You clearly have these scientists. Are you looking just specifically for other scientists? The main narrator for this, I don't know if it's a documentary, video, whatever. His name is Alex Klokus. So I'm assuming that he's either a CEO or at the very least, he's definitely heavily involved on the investor side based off of what he was saying. So he has worked with SALT, which let me read you their about, because I think that it seems kind of interesting. SALT is a global investment platform connecting institutional asset owners with innovative asset managers and technology entrepreneurs. Who we are. SALT is a community of the world's foremost investors, creators, and thinkers. Our mission is to drive prosperity and innovation by connecting investment capital with intellectual capital. We achieve our mission by helping institutional investors, from sovereign wealth funds and government pensions to endowments and foundations to family offices and financial advisors, identify and connect with differentiated asset managers, from hedge funds to venture capital to private equity credit, and company founders, from flintech to deep tech to climate tech. SALT was founded in 2009 by Skybridge Capital, a leading fund of funds, but now operates as a standalone entity. So Skybridge, huh? So I wondered, is this Skybridge Capital? Are they involved with Skywatcher? Let's see. Oh, they've got SALT on there. No, I don't. Oh, whatever. You can take my cookies. Yeah, I don't know. The investment world is beyond me. I'm small peanuts. It's just not my life. At least he seems to be the personality that they have doing a lot of interviews for them, at least on their YouTube channel, the investment firm YouTube channel. They start this video talking about how he had spoken to Dr. Garry Nolan about 2 years ago on the program, which I I tried to find the full interview. I found a clip or at least a portion of it. I think it's like an 18-minute version of it on YouTube. I'll link everything that I could find in the description, just so that way you can see it. But he was talking about how his discussion with Garry Nolan, or Dr. Garry Nolan, excuse me, had kind of, triggered this interest. And then he had Colonel Karl Nell as well. And I know I had seen clips of that elsewhere. I've seen clips of both of these interviews in other documentaries by other creators. So I just didn't realize that that's where these were from, which actually makes me wonder. So Jesse Michaels is also in the venture capital side. So I wonder, just with all of the interviews and everything that he's been doing, I have to wonder how involved he's in this, because I would imagine that he would be, just based off of the little bit that I know, based off the content that he's creating and the conversations that he's been having. Watching the interview, I don't want to say interview, because it doesn't feel like a natural interview. It definitely felt very staged, which I don't want to be nitpicky on that, because I get it. I understand that this is coordinated in the sense that there's specific information that they needed to pull out, but do I think they could have done that better? Yes, I think they could have done that better. Anyways, I'm not going to fault them for that. I was actually wondering, are they trying to just privatize the psionic asset? But I imagine it is already privatized within the, DoD contractors, the independent contractors. But is it more just to get more public attention on it? I guess I'm just trying to understand, at some point they're gonna have to make money, right? These guys would not be investing in this if there was not some kind of return. And I don't think that just an educational or informational return is enough. I just don't. So where are you guys getting the money? I mean, obviously I can't say that, because obviously you guys have enough capital behind you. You've got, I imagine, people with a lot of money and a lot of interest in this, which I don't want to speculate as to who. Obviously they're not telling us the whole story. There is something. I don't know what it is, but there's something. So they talked to a couple of the psionic guys. So there was Jordan and Michael. So he's having these guys basically just verbally acknowledge that they've had these experiences, on camera or whatever. But I have to wonder, so they were talking about the incident, or at least their initial test of this, which apparently, based off the information from this video, was August of 2024. They're saying there was a collection of other sightings within that area, the Southern California area, at the same time, or at least around the same time that they were doing these tests. They did have experiences. They had Garry Nolan involved in these tests. I'm sorry, Dr. Nolan. I'm just going to say Dr. Nolan. I'm sorry. Which, let me say, they have this picture. I had to take a screenshot of this because this man's shirt is freaking amazing. Smart people with a sense of humor, they're so important to this world. They really are. So they have these people that are, respected scientists, which is important. That is important. It is incredibly important that they have individuals that are highly respected in the fields in which they work. I appreciate the fact that Dr. Nolan was involved in that, and I think that's super important. It sounds like he's pretty involved in what they're doing, which I think is good. When Dr. Nolan was talking about this, when they were running this test that in August, he said that somebody was in distress and whatever, and it's well, it makes me wonder, because it sounded like the psionic asset had at least contacted a craft, or at least had taken control of one craft. I don't know what the correct term, because I guess we don't have enough understanding of that yet, right? Whether in communication with one craft and then another craft came from a different direction. It sounded like somebody was in distress, which I assume was the psionic asset, but it makes me wonder, they're talking about being able to connect with these craft and materials. Are there any that we can't? We know that there are, at this point, several different shapes of craft, shall we say? Are there some that we can't? And if we can't, why can't we? Do we know that? Do we know if there are any? I don't know. I have so many questions. There's so many things swimming in my brain on this. They did go more into talking about the psionics, and there are certain subsets of people that are more sensitive to this. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to understand. Are there specific characteristics that are found consistently among these people? Are there certain genetic markers that are found consistently with all of these people? Are there specific psychological things about these people that are consistent? What about brain activity? I'm just curious. And if there aren't specific markers, let's say, for this particular trait or ability, are there ways to tap into it if you're not predisposed to it? With this test, so they did capture some footage for this. They did have to like adjust the video slightly for clarity, and I did appreciate that they actually put at the bottom of the screen, you know, these are the changes that we made, so that way hopefully people are like, oh, well, it's doctored. Well, yeah, but this is what we did, so that way you could actually see what was going on, which I appreciate. So it's kind of weird. So they ended that Skywatcher is not a media company. Okay. That they're just focused on validating or invalidating the claims. Okay. So why do they need to specify that they are not a media company, right? I'm assuming it's because they are likely going to have media. I mean, they are going to need to produce media. That's important. I don't get what it is you're doing. I mean, maybe that's the point. Maybe you don't want people to know fully or grasp. It just doesn't, I guess I'm just having a hard time buying that this is strictly just research. For real. I would really like to know your thoughts on this. Did you watch that video? If you haven't, I will have it linked in the description. Go watch it and let me know. I'm really curious if anyone else had the same takeaways that I did. Does anyone know what they might be doing? Does anyone else have any ideas about what they could be doing or any experiences with anything like this? I don't know. There's a lot. I think it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see what comes from this. Honestly, I think it's good. I think it's definitely for the best. I appreciate the fact that they're really starting to take this seriously now, at least publicly. Somebody is. I don't know. Hit the like button if you like this video. Consider subscribing if you want to see more rants from me on this, because I'm sure there will be more. But realistically, at the end of the day, I'm just some chick on the internet.